Thank you so much, and I'm double mic'd here, so hopefully I'm audible and not too loud. All those things are so nice to hear, and they took me some work, but that's not really why I'm here, and that's not what's important for you to remember about me. First and foremost, I'm a member of the City of Springboro. I love this community, I love the people and my neighbors and my friends that I've met here, and I'm just overwhelmed with joy to be able to be the first person from Premier to kick off this speaker series that we are going to be giving back to the community. I'm passionate about health and wellness. As Maureen mentioned, I've been a physical therapist for over 30 years. I worked home care for most of that time out in the homes in the community of this area and other areas. And I love older adults. That's one of my passions. And I love the concept of aging and wellness over time. So hopefully things that you'll hear today, you'll take with you and they'll be helpful. We are here to make this for you, so I will have some questions. Feel free to interact, or sometimes I just pause and let you think about what your own answers would be. You don't always have to share those with everyone else. So thank you so much, and we're going to get started then. Today's title is Recharge Your Well-Being, and basically what we're just looking at, it's January, it's a new year. Many of us think about resolutions and new things we might want to get started on. So we're just going to talk a little bit about how we can reboot our overall wellness and what overall wellness is, talk about some different dimensions of wellness, so hopefully you'll enjoy. So what do most of you think about when you think of wellness? Some of you may just think of the absence of disease, so just not being sick. If you're not sick, you're well. But really, wellness is defined by the World Health Organization as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. So it's not just merely the absence of disease. And wellness is not just about surviving day to day, it's about thriving. So we want to live our best lives, and to do so, wellness needs to be more than a noun to us, it needs to be an active pursuit. So it's going to be based on our day-to-day thoughts, choices, and habits, because whatever we're thinking is going to drive our behaviors. And as we all know, our lifestyle behaviors impact our health quite a lot. So the other thing that we want to think about, as I mentioned, is it's holistic. We're going to look at all these different dimensions, but a lot of times we may think of wellness as being physically healthy, but in the last number of years, we've all learned a lot about mental health, and so we also may think now about wellness being mentally healthy, but it also is going to be how we're interacting with our environment, our relationships, where we find our purpose and meaning. So there's going to be a lot of things that we're going to explore when it comes to wellness. So the takeaway here is that wellness is going to be active, it's going to make it depend upon your choices, and it's going to be expansive. And the more that you can thrive, the better quality of life you're going to have, and you're not just going to be living the day-to-day trying to get through. We all want that extra level of joy. So what are we going to cover as far as the dimensions of wellness? If you've ever done any research, you'll realize there are lots of different dimensions of wellness out there. But what we're covering today is typically in the wellness community considered the core or the deeper level of wellness. So while some areas might talk about financial wellness or your career aspects of wellness, those type of categories, we're going to sort of just cover these 6 topics that are considered the core. So we'll look at physical, existential, emotional, relational, mental, and environmental wellness today. So as we go through these different aspects, I hope you can just learn a little bit about each of them and think about, what of these are interesting you, what do you think you do already pretty well in, and then what areas might be something that you could learn something new about. So as I mentioned, the whole idea today is to think about recharging and upgrading our wellness from where we might be at right now. And so whenever you think about starting something new in life, I think all of us are here and experienced enough to know that we have to think a little bit about readiness and timing. And so when you think about recharging yourself, you're going to need to make sure you have an area in your life where you're balancing rest, connection, because the more you have support and accountability, the better you're going to be able to make changes. And then what does your daily schedule just look like? Do you have room for adding things? And if not, what might you need to change so that you can do some of these things that you might find important to you as we go through the presentation. So once you are ready, then the next step would be to think about, as we explore the different dimensions of wellness, creating some balance amongst your dimensions. None of us are going to have perfect balances in each of the areas because we're all unique. We all have things that we're passionate about, that come more naturally to us, that are more important to us. But as we look at the different dimensions, in your mind, think about what areas are you doing very well on. Congratulate yourself, give yourself an applause, pause there, and these are obviously strengths that come more naturally to you. Then take a look at the areas that you think you hadn't thought as much about and that you might need a little bit more input or time spent or reflection, where you might be able to grow. And when we hit those topics today, just start to think about what could I maybe think about to change here and what might fit into my life and balance myself out a little bit. So now we are going to start recharging. So I like to think of recharging as your surge power strip where you have all the different outlets, and as we go through the different dimensions, think about which ones right now you have plugged into that power strip and think of which ones you might have unplugged and that need to be recharged. So if you turn off the whole power strip, you're going to be completely drained. If you turn on the whole power strip with all those things plugged in, you're going to have your biggest charge of energy. And so just kind of think of that visual as we go through. And again, everything here we're talking about is for you, and I want you to keep in mind that there's a lot of these recommendations that are global, but you just need to individualize this for your own goals and your own wellness. Does anybody have any questions before we start with digging into the different dimensions of wellness? Okay. So first is physical wellness, and these are in no particular order, but physical wellness is basically the ability of you to maintain your quality of life day to day. So it's going to be what allows you to get yourself up, do your daily activities, and if you're physically well, you can do these things without undue fatigue or physical stress. So that's kind of how you can rate your overall physical wellness. And there are a lot of things that come into physical wellness. So most of us think of activity. So staying active is an important part of physical wellness, keeping our muscle mass, being able to function normally. Those things are part of our physical wellness components. Finding a healthy weight and regulating our metabolism over the time as we age are also very important parts of our physical wellness. You know, we all know that having extra weight can put us at disease risk, so can being underweight and not having proper nutrition. So just finding that, our needs are different over the lifespan, and making sure you're working on that as you age and change is important. Building healthy habits, so eating a healthy diet is very important, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more as well. But those are all part of what's going to make you physically well and be able to enjoy your quality of life. And then also keeping up with your preventative health measures. So this is really important. You know, sometimes some of us may neglect our medical care, and there's no disclosure here. You already know I'm from Premier Health. You don't have to come to us. But we do want to make sure when we go out into the community, you realize the importance of seeing your primary care providers, getting your vaccines, doing things like that. So that's all going to help you protect yourself in the long run from disease and illness. And so it's important to keep in check with all those things. So just a little bit more about physical wellness as far as the staying active and getting active and moving more. These are going to be the activity guidelines that are recommended by the Center for Disease Control. So basically, they're just asking Americans to get up and move more. You shouldn't be sitting 2 or 3 hours a day. You want to get up, take a little walk, go up a flight of stairs if you have some in your home, do some stretches, just get your muscles activated. It's better for your heart, it's better for your lungs, it's also better for your joint health. Every time we move around, we lubricate our joints. Throughout our lifespan, that lubrication lessens. We don't have as much fluid as we used to. We wish we could maybe get a new set of oil sometimes for some of our joints. But moving is going to help that. That fluid actually has nourishment in it, so it's important to move around. Overall, the recommendations are 150 minutes a week. Those can be broken up anyhow, any time blocks, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. In fact, it's better, in my opinion, to break them up into time blocks, unless you're really training for some type of thing where you want to be able to walk, 2 hours for some kind of event or something like that. But so just over the course of the week to try to get 150 minutes of moderate intensity activity, something that just kind of gets your heart going a little bit. And then one of the things that many of us forget, especially as we get older, is to work on strengthening. You don't have to go to the gym and wear some kind of fancy outfit. You can do this at home. You can use your body weight. It can be doing things like going up and down stairs, maybe doing some squats, getting next to the wall and doing some push-ups against the wall, so you're stimulating your upper body a little bit. But strength and the ability to develop power is the number one thing that you need as you get older to stay independent in your home. You have to be able to get up from your toilet, your chair, you have to be able to open your food containers to eat, things like that. And then specifically activity guidelines that are geared more towards older adults is to try to think of how you can do activities that have different components of strength, endurance, and balance. So that will help you with your coordination and preventing falls and things as you get older. And then, as always, when you're active, you should understand your current condition and be as active as able. You may have something now that has limited you that you can't do what you did 10 or 15 years ago. I'm right now in that phase of my life where I feel like I'm checking off and eliminating a lot of different things that I used to be able to do, and I'm sure some of you can relate. But wisdom shows us that it's important to make changes when they're necessary, but still stay active and find some new things to keep moving. So what do you think are some of the benefits of staying active as you age? Does anybody have anything? Good, mental, yes, very good for our mental health. And not just mental health from like thinking more clearly and being more productive and processing our thoughts, but it actually helps anxiety and depression. In fact, one of the few things that happens as immediate benefit of exercise is lessening anxiety, lowering your blood pressure, processing your blood sugar, and so, and that is just immediate, like after you're doing it. So it doesn't have to be something that's done long term. That's like, you could just do that today after you leave here. Anything else? What about some chronic diseases that we could prevent if we were a little more active? Diabetes, heart disease, lessens our risk of dementia, all the different types of dementia, especially Alzheimer's dementia. So helps us maintain any issues we may have with arthritis and lessens the severity of arthritis, doing the proper exercise. So all kinds of different things that it's helpful for. It also decreases our risk for at least 8 different types of cancer. So as they say, usually if you're not in the category of being plagued with heart disease and diabetes when you get older, then your next biggest thing to worry about might be getting cancer. So exercise is good for all of those big things that can happen that can be very detrimental to our life. All right, physical wellness, just a little bit more here, dietary guidelines. So most of us know overall what we should and shouldn't eat, but what's really important is to make sure you're having a lot of your nutrients. You know, sometimes we don't want to cook. I'm in that same phase now. I don't have my kids at home, so I'm not cooking as much as I want. You tend to eat the same thing 3 or 4 days in a row. I think I'm finally finishing last week's chili. So we still need to make sure we're every day getting greens and different colors of food, getting that fiber, not having foods with too much fat, sugar, and sodium. And just think of anything that you eat now that maybe you could shift to just a little bit healthier. Could you find a cereal that has a little more fiber and less sugar in it? Or maybe choose an oatmeal instead for breakfast, something like that. And then again, just making sure that our calorie balance is important for our weight. And we really want to make sure we're eating enough protein and calcium consumption too when we get older, again, to help with those muscles and help with those bones. And then the last component of physical health is sort of in the preventive realm. So I put sleep in with preventative health because sleep is really our rest and recovery. So sleep is when we rebuild our cells and our tissues, and as we age, we have a lot of cellular damage that doesn't get cleaned away, and we need to clean that away. In our sleep, we need to build up our immunity so that we're not getting ill. You know, right now everything is going around, and this is the time of year where you need to keep yourself sleeping well. We can all be guilty of not following good sleep habits, but it's very important going to bed at the, I'm hearing some people, seeing some people say, yes, it happens out there. So going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time is probably one of the best things that you can do, and just having an exact sleep time routine. If you think about all the things that you have in habits in life, as simple as getting up in the morning, you know, do you wash your face, brush your teeth? These are things that your body is just trained to do, and they're in that habit cycle. They're so flowing that you don't even think about them. If sleep becomes that, it really helps your body just at night say, I've done these things, I'm sleeping now. It's just that little automation that you can put into your life to help you get back to sleep, or to get to sleep. So obviously we all know about screen times, making sure we're careful with not having those, and especially not late at night. And then this is the one thing great about Ohio in January, the temperature is perfect for sleeping. It's dark and perfectly cold. So really, they say 66 to 68 is definitely the best temperatures. You don't want it over the 70 for sure to sleep in your home. Now again, when we get older, we have different temperatures we feel comfortable with, but we are sleeping better if our body feels just slightly cool at night, so keep that in mind. And then the preventive health we talked about already, some wellness checks, your preventative screenings, your flu, your pneumonia, shingles, all those things that you want to keep on top of. So recharging your physical wellness, there's lots of things you could do here. Think about a few things, and I don't know if you guys have pens or whatever, maybe just take a mental note. But maybe one area that we talked about that you could improve on, and just kind of take a little time in your mind to think about, what could I do? I know for myself, in January, I kind of think about and need to, it's on my to-do list, schedule a couple of my wellness exams that I haven't scheduled yet for the year. So, it used to be you could schedule those when you weigh in the year before, but now you have to wait till the window and get online and do all that. So think about that. Maybe add some kind of fruit. If you haven't been doing your 5 servings of fruits and vegetables, maybe add something to your lunch instead of just sitting down with a sandwich. Put a few carrots on there, put an apple on there. Lots of things that you can do. So small little things you do with every day that will help you add up over time. All right, so here, and you guys, some of you were looking through all this when you sat down, which I do the same thing. So I'm going to expect some good responses, because you should have had a preview of the correct answers. I need to make sure I don't do that with the slides next time. So what's the world record for the longest time without sleep? 19 days. Guess when that was set? 1986. Robert McDonald that set this record, but it makes me think of the McDonald family and how they're always open, right? But it was 453 hours and 40 minutes. And so you may think it might be a great record that perhaps you could break this. It might be the one record you could still break. If you're like me, I think I've passed, I'm not going to, make any speed records or anything like that. But the Guinness Book of World Records in 1997 realized how dangerous it was for people to try to go without sleep, so they actually stopped the record at that point. So he will forever have that at 19 days. Do not try that at home. I feel like I should say that. Okay, so now we're going to go on to relational wellness. So relational wellness is the level at which we interact and relate to others, and it's a key component to our holistic health. In fact, it really plays a big role in all the other dimensions, because again, if we have somebody that supports us in accountability, we're going to have better overall health. Accountability is important for just making behavior changes, and then having a strong relationship, such as being married or with a significant other, has been shown to increase your lifespan even. So it's very, very important to our overall wellness. So when we think about this dimension, we want to ask ourselves, do we feel connected? Like we belong to something or someone? And that's kind of how you can rate how you're doing with your relational wellness. So key components here are, you want to make sure you're spending quality time with those around you. And that's different for everyone. Quality time for some of us may be sitting next to our person that we care about and watching a show together or having a meal together. It may be going to an event. It may be having a good conversation with one of your children that you don't get to see very often, or it may be going and caring for a parent and helping them out. But something that you're doing that is really making you feel connected. Making sure you continue to build stable and meaningful relationships. Sometimes it's harder when we don't have our work spaces and we're all home more in general, not only in the winter, but because of COVID, so it can be hard to find some new relationships, but trying to continue to do that and reach out. Contributing to your community. So this is a big thing, and that, again, is what I said. I'm very excited to be here today, but not just through your work, but through other things that you can do. There's lots of organizations around this community that you can volunteer in or join and be a part of. So that's another great way to meet people and build relations. And then most importantly, I think sometimes we forget, is to make sure we're connecting for fun and leisure. Sometimes it can be easy to be connecting when we feel like there's a need, like we have a friend that we know is ill, so we're going to go and we're going to take them food, or we're going to pray for them, or we're going to, mail them a nice card. But then when they get better, do something, celebrate, go out, have some kind of party for them. Everybody needs to cycle back to that joy, and that's really what builds relationships, is when we have joy together. So you can get through tough times together, and that can connect you, but bringing joy back into that is also very important. So thinking about recharging here, there's lots of different things. You can nurture relationships that energize you. And so as we get through life, we have things that change, and one thing that can be nice is sometimes when we don't have as many people that depend on us, we can release some of the responsibilities that might have been things that were draining us when we were younger. So that's okay, right? In fact, I had a meeting with my boss before here today at 9. I meet with her at Tuesdays, and she said, "Oh, are the schools closed around there?" I said, "No idea." My name is off that call list. I don't have any more 4:30 a.m. wake-ups by the bed. And, so, you always want to reevaluate where you are with your responsibilities, your relationships, and your phases in life. But really put effort into the things that energize you. Seek out and maintain a variety of outlets, so places that you can have different types of stimulation with your relations, so that you might have a nice relationship with a spouse and a couple close friends, but some different people that might be more culturally different than you and have some different ideas than you. Try to work on your communication skills. That's a great way to build your relational wellness. So when you're talking with somebody, be a good listener. Try to reflect back to them. Try to think of things you can say to them that are encouraging and bring them joy. And then volunteering your time and talents to any kind of community initiatives, again, to groups and things that are above and beyond you, will always make you feel better. And when you're serving with other people, you'll find you have met people that have that same caring spirit. It's an easy way to grow relationships and meet people that you can connect with. Does anybody have any ideas on how they've navigated relational wellness? Yes?
I would just comment on the last item there on the list of volunteering. There have been a number of studies that show that the people who volunteer have better mental and physical health. And as Maureen knows, and some of the other people here may know, I put a lot of time in volunteering. I put in 1,500 hours of volunteer time last year. But it does make a difference, it really does. So, that's not something that stands out for a lot of people, but I just wanted to say that it's something, and there's all kinds of organizations out there that are looking for volunteers. So whatever you want to do, somebody can find a place to put you to work.
Thank you so much. I love that, and I appreciate that. And that's so true for, first of all, thank you for your service. I'm sure a lot of us have been through this community, so we've all benefited. But that's so true, and it's true at any age. I have 2 daughters in college, and over the years, with everything that happens with children these days, and even myself, I've caught myself during times in life where you feel like you're having that more isolation and you're just not. And the first thing I tell them to go to is, well, what can you get involved in? And my youngest daughter now is involved in a weekly volunteer thing at her university, and I've seen how much it's pepped her up and just how excited she's been about it. And so I think that's something that's really important. We don't realize how important it is. So thank you so much for taking time to comment. I appreciate that. And I'm sure Maureen has some ideas, but I also have an idea here. So if you would like to join a new group around the area to improve your relational wellness, what one may you want to join? Yeah, do we have anybody here from Clear Creekers today? Oh, you guys? Okay, great. So I just looked on the website because Maureen had told me about this group. It looks like you meet once a month. Anything you want me to plug out loud here on the recording?
Well, we are basically a social organization, so that we get together once a month. We eat, that's lunchtime, and we always have a speaker or some music or something is going on after the meal. We're there about 2 hours, but as with any other senior group, it's very important to get together. Right now, we're drawing about 50 to 55 every month, and it has been working out for us. COVID was a killer for a short while, but The difficulty is, as we get older, getting the enthusiasm up can be difficult. But in the case of my wife and I, we have other social outlets. We have a regular group that meets for Mexican train every Monday. We get together. We spend about 4 or 5 hours together because we always finish up with dinner somewhere. We know any number of people who are in social groups. Just so important to be able to do that. We know a number of people who enjoy taking the bus tours that Warren County gets involved with. They go to a lot of areas. So we keep busy. I'll tell you, on a very small scale, my wife and I, every evening after supper, we either play 5 Crowns, or we play Scrabble, or we play something. Just the two of us. And we have 1 or 2 TV shows that we always watch together. So that's, and another comment I would make, though, is the whole idea of getting older. I tell a lot of people, getting older is a matter of just making concessions with a smile on your face. Because you're going to have to make those concessions, like it or not. You can slow them down, and we do our best at doing that because we're both physically active too. And that helps an awful lot. I'm enjoying your talk.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I love that. You know, all my years I've got so many little phrases that I've learned from people, and I love that, making concessions with a smile on your face. So I'm going to try to remember that. And thank you for doing that group. It's important to have groups and places to meet, and I know that it can be hard for the enthusiasm sometimes, especially in the cold weather, and times are hard, you know. But that's where doing those things that are joyful, you know, really helps. People are going to come out to things if they have fun, or if they have other people that are looking for them there. So those relationships, all that, are very important. So thank you. And I do have, I think, your little website. Oh, I don't want to cut you off. I just want to make sure. I think I have your website at the end here too, but anybody that wants to, we'll make sure they know how to get a hold of you guys.
One of the things I do my best to never let happen at our get-togethers is to talk about everybody's problems. Get away from that. I just, you know, people will ask me, you know, so-and-so had this problem last month, are you going to bring it up at the meeting? And I would say no, because all it does is it perpetuates that down feeling that, you know, oh, I know somebody had that problem last month, and you blah, 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 blah. I'm sorry, but that's just not me. I don't want that in my life. I hope I'm not complaining on my last day.
Wonderful. Yeah, I like that too. Thank you. Okay, so all great ideas, and I think you guys have got a lot of great things. Again, I love this community, and the people in it is what makes the community. It's what makes any group of people, right, is what people do within their group. So essential wellness is our next topic. Sometimes people think of that as spiritual wellness, but it's basically connecting your inner worlds to your outer worlds to support living your value and your purpose. And so this is one of those key dimensions of wellness that can kind of overflow into all the other dimensions, because if you get this working right in your life, it's basically like your life manual. So if you're living by your values, it's going to be easier to make decisions that support your values. So basically, components here are congruence between your values and actions, trying to pursue that peace and harmony in your life, and then that awareness of life as a journey. So just as you were saying, you know, you might have to make some concessions, but it's not something that you want to look at as this is sort of the downfall part of my life. This is just a different, new part of my life. So everything is a phase. And one of the things that you know, we think about here with it being the dimensions, it's kind of that connection of that mind, body, soul. And so I always tell people, think of an example of something that you value. So perhaps you value your independence. You really want to be in your home and you value your independence. then if you think of that value and then you think about what can I do to help with that for behaviors. So maybe it's adding that little stairs or the squats during the day so you can make sure you get up and down from your chair. Maybe it's eating a little healthier. And what about if one of your main values is your family, and your relationships with your spouse and your children or whatever other family, brothers and sisters you may have? Then you're going to make those phone calls when you need to if you haven't heard from somebody and not wait for them. It's their turn, that kind of thing. So getting, again, at your core and having that congruency is going to make everything that you want more important to you. It's also going to help you eliminate those things that aren't as important. And so because this is such a core component, really, when we think about behavior change, we think about what it takes to make behavior change. Once you have the readiness, then you basically need a direction and a vision for yourself. And so knowing your values gives you that direction and that vision. And so once you have that, having this higher level of existential wellness is going to help you sustain your motivation. It's going to help you stimulate those behaviors. It's going to mold the experiences that you have because you're going to make choices based on the things that you value. And most importantly, it's going to build your resilience. And I think most of us see this in other people. If you've ever really had someone you've admired at how they live, if they really have certain values, then when things happen to them in their life that might not be what they expected or that might be challenges, they seem to be able to be pretty solid there because they know who they are and what they want. So it really does build your stress resilience. So it's really where we are sitting in a spot where we harmonize our values with our actions. So do you feel like most of you can incorporate these things day to day? You feel pretty good with that situation? There's also all kinds of things that it involves as far as like just accepting other people too and things like that. So here's ways you can recharge here. So obviously if you are unsettled on some of the things that you're thinking about or valuing, then just explore that. Think about what's unsettling you and kind of try to work through that so you know really what your core values are. Try to create a statement of purpose for yourself. So this is something I had to do as my training a couple years ago for the Wellness Mayo Clinic program that I went through. But before that, a long time ago, when I was a young mother, my husband was traveling all the time. I had 2 kids in 2 years. Luckily, they were fairly good, but they're kids. And so I was home by myself a lot because I had given up my career and only worked on weekends for a few years. I was really struggling with like, what does all this mean? Diapers in the trash, my house is a mess, blah, blah, blah. And at one point, I just decided that I had to figure out a new me, that it wasn't going to be the same set of standards I had before with my job, and that now I have to figure out what's important to me right now. And I just set upon this silly little small phrase that I'm going to be the type of person that people matter and things don't. And I've carried that for, both my kids are in college now, but I've carried that with me all those years. And so you should not show up in my place unexpected. My neighbors do, and they're sweet because they don't care. It may not look perfect, but I feel good about knowing that about myself. And so think about what your purpose is. You guys have a purpose of being social, it looks like, in your life, and you serve, you're a service-oriented gentleman. So those are things that are good to know, and that way when something kind of feels like you get in a rut, you kind of remember this is who you are and what you want to do. Positive mindset, so we've already talked about this, but we can all ruminate on negativity, and negative thoughts lead to negative behaviors, and nothing good comes out of that. You need to process your emotions, most certainly, but we shouldn't stick in those cycle patterns, and if so, then you should ask for help for someone to help you get through that. Because when we have a positive thought, we're going to have more positive emotions and positive behaviors. And then just putting things in a perspective too. Sometimes it can be easy when something happens to us and I feel like we have all these things on our list that have gone wrong to think that we're the only one, but that perspective of there's a larger mankind and that other people have been through this. People in the past have, even with COVID, we've had plagues in the past, we've had diseases in the past. So just having that mindset that we're not alone will help you connect to more above here and now in the grand scheme of things. So now we're going to look at mental wellness. So mental wellness is basically the state in which we realize our own abilities, cope with normal stresses, and work productively and fruitfully. So really, again, it helps us to make a contribution to things above and beyond ourselves. So there is that cognitive level of mental wellness, so just sort of the brain and the knowledge and the power of the brain, the things that we can think about, having mental focus, having accuracy. It's also the cognition of our own abilities and talents and different from other people. So there may be norms for people your age, but you might be better at this and not as good at that, just like you were when you were 20, just 30, things that change. It's our perspective. So again, our mindset in that relationship to how we look at things over time in that perspective of common humanity. And then it's also contributing ourselves, working productively, if you're still in the work environment, or working productively in whatever environments you are, in your home, in your communities, with your neighbors, things like that. So it's your unique set of skills and talents that all encompass your mental wellness. So to recharge mentally, there's lots of things we can do, and more than there used to ever be. So number one, just like you do physical workouts, you do mental workout. So some of you have that mastered daily, which I love that you do that every day. But playing games, things that stimulate yourself, and especially in groups. So a lot of times we don't think about, we may play solitaire on our phone, or we may do a Sudoku puzzle. That's my mom's queen of Sudoku. She was a retired math teacher, so you know why. I never got past the beginner. Maybe, I think I could do the intermediate sometimes if I have a lot of time on my hands, but she does the advanced one still. So doing it in a group, though, you have to have response time. You have to interact with what has somebody played for you, and then what do you respond with. So that's really important to help you with your mental. But if you only have yourself available, and there's still a lot of things that are benefit to doing the other things. Exploring new skills, so learning something new. Every time we learn something new, develops our brain and our paths and circuitry. Does anybody have anything here that they've learned new recently? Anything that they're excited about? Or ideas that?
I think just new. I look at any number of games on the, on my iPad.
Yeah.
It was funny because funny you mentioned Sudoku, because I was in the middle of one when I left home.
Well, thank you. My mom would have never showed up. She would have had to finish it first. All right, so lots of ideas there, and there's lots of different things. It can be something like learning a new song, like you hear some song on the radio you like, try to learn the words for it. Try to kind of get yourself singing to the melody correct, and just do it in the car, no one will know. Help others, so again, that mental well-being, just making others and doing something helps you feel empowered, and interacting and socializing overall is just going to stimulate, again, your brain to think differently and more quickly, and so the more and more you can go to these kind of groups and do those things, the better off you will be. So now we're moving on to emotional wellness. So sometimes it can be confusing between mental and emotional wellness. So the big difference is emotional wellness is really how we handle life stress and adapt to change, and especially with the relationship of how we are regulating our emotions. So it's basically that kind of what we tend to term now as emotional maturity. So that you're expressing yourself, but you're doing it in the proper manner. You're not, laughing when someone's telling you something sad, etc. So basically, if you have a high level of emotional wellness, the component with that would be that you feel open and safe to express your emotions to other people. You would want to do that in the right environment. It's still good to be wise. There's some people you don't want to tell your feelings to if you don't feel like they are trustworthy. But you still know that you can do that and not feel too reserved or like that you can't be vulnerable to someone. It involves being empathetic, so being able to listen to somebody and try to match their emotions and feel how they may be feeling about something, and just trying to have some kind of understanding for that at whatever level you can. And it really involves being realistic about expectations too, because to regulate yourself emotionally, you're going to have to be able to regulate your stress. So stress is one of the big things that knocks our emotions off. Oh, and I should have mentioned in the last slide, just like existential wellness is sort of one of those core elements that can trigger and spawn everything else on our dimensions, emotional wellness can have sort of the opposite effect. If we aren't regulating our emotions very well, it can drain all of our other areas quite quickly. So it's another key component from that standpoint. So stress is one of the things that really knocks our emotions off the most. Would everybody maybe agree with that? Yeah, right. So it can make you get angry, it can make you get sad, can make you be very anxious. So stress is unmanageable. That's exactly the definition of stress. Is basically an unpredictable threat that's placed on your body. We don't plan for it. But we can plan overall our lifestyles and what we do and help regulate our stress. So if your schedule's too busy, that's going to make you stressed. If you have signed up for things that are not working out well for you, perhaps you thought this was going to be a great idea and it's not, and every time you get into this scenario it's stressful, then maybe it wasn't the same choice you should have made, and you can make a different one and find something else that might work better. So just thinking about what you can do there, as I mentioned earlier in my life, set priorities. What do I really need to have, taking what is most important and what can be let go? Showing compassion for yourself and for others is another thing that will help with regulating your emotions when you're stressed. Help. How many of us like to ask for help? Yeah, none of us. We all want to be independent. We're naturally geared that way. How many of us like when somebody else asks us for help? Yeah, most of us, right? You feel like you're worthy, you're needed. And how many of us feel better when we have gotten help, appropriate help from someone? Yeah. So it's simple as asking and trying to seek. And if you don't have someone, then you may need to find resources. There's a lot of community resources, church-based resources that you can find. And then to manage your stress day to day, build in something that is relaxing. We may not have high-level stress every day, but if we just have that kind of like the brushing your teeth into our routine where we just have a moment we know we're going to have peace and quiet, then that's going to keep us at least checked in that day and keep things from going 1, 2, 3, 4 days. Next thing you know, you've been stressed for a month and you haven't had any time to relax or unwind. Number 2, cope with loss. So this is a big thing at any point in life, but I think it does affect us more as we get older. We usually have more loss in our life. Loss of maybe the job we were in, family, loss of the same type of income we may have had when we were younger. So lots of different things that can be hard, because loss and grief are hard. And we need to make sure that we work through those and we talk to people and we take our time when we do have those kind of events come onto our lives, and not just kind of think it's not as big of a deal as it is, because you want to make sure we're processing them. So when you're going through those kind of periods, lean on people and wait on big decisions. When you're trying to cope with something, it's not the time to add more stressful situations into the mix. Building resilience. So the building resilience is basically coming up with habits that help you build resilience. So it's that self-care. For some people, self-care tends to seem to have been kind of a feminized term, in my opinion. People think of it being taking a bath or, doing a facial or things like that. Self-care is not that. Self-care is whatever time you are taking to replenish yourself. So my husband, I don't know that he would ever say he does self-care, but he does like these podcasts, or he does things that like he enjoys to recharge, and like he has this little noise quieting headphones on, so I can go behind him and make fun of him. Kids and I yell at him sometimes, you're worth, things are fun. But so, you just need that moment to yourself. So it's just care for yourself at a certain time. Being healthy physically helps, of course, because the more strength you have physically, the more you're going to be able to, your body, does require that. Gratitude. Does anybody here do gratitude journals, or even just in their mind, think about what they're grateful for? Yeah, those are big things. Studies show if you just do 3 things either at the first thing in the morning or at night, then that really has a lot of health benefits as well. You can list them out loud, or you can write them in a journal. And then try to reframe and think about when you have something challenging you, how can you grow? And instead of it being a negative thing, how could it be positive? You could learn something new about yourself or about somebody else. Sometimes it's not, I always tell my kids, it's not about you all the time, sometimes it's about somebody else. So think about that. And then mind-body modalities, these are really important. Breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, that's where you tighten and relax your muscles. That's a great thing to do before bed. imagery, just thinking of maybe, sweet face of maybe a grandbaby that you had when they were first born and brand new, a vacation spot you like to go to, just trying to picture that. Whenever we engage our senses and think through that, what did that look like? What did that feel like? What sounds were in there? I heard them cry. What did they sound like when they're crying? How did they smell? The baby smells so good. Then that helps engage your mind and really relaxes you. Yoga, doing mindful walks. So, I wouldn't recommend it today, but when the weather improves, getting out and thinking about what do I see? What do I smell? What do I hear out here in the park today? All of that helps you with your mindfulness. Every time we engage our mind with the senses, we get into that rest and relaxation mode, which is really good for us. All right, so we are now into the last one, environmental wellness. So environmental wellness is basically the dimension of wellness where we look at and think about how do we affect the earth and how does the earth affect us. It's that interconnectedness with our surroundings. And so we can kind of break it out into a few categories, our connection really with planet Earth and how Earth connects our physical health. So days like today where it's cold, there might be ice, there's obviously some things that could happen there. And then environmental wellness within our personal spaces. So all those things are going to be important because our everyday surroundings affect us a lot. So when we think about how we can affect these things, there's lots of different ways. So first, home, for adapting your home. How many people have cluttered homes? There's not the recordings up here, so you can just, yeah. Yeah, so clutter, we don't think about that. I mean, we do think about it, but studies have shown that clutter, and especially to women, this is one of those gender things in most cases, but that's with the research. It's really stressful for women to see clutter, and they feel like they've constantly got a to-do list. Safety, just making sure you've got the right lighting, your rugs, things like that in your home. There's not ripped carpet. And one of the things that I really like to highlight is quiet spaces. So, you may be in a phase in your life where that might not be as important to you, but if you have a phase where you still do have a lot of people coming in and out of your home, for a while when my kids were young, my quiet space was the stairwell closet in our basement. I cleaned it out and just would sit in there for a while because no one knew I had that as a quiet space. They found out I had the bathtub and that didn't work, so but just that spot where you can feel like even if you just need to take 5 minutes, you can just take a few deep breaths and feel like it's yours. Thinking about color and design, things that relax you, bring things into your home that you like. That's one thing nice sometimes as you do have a little more time. You can maybe rearrange some things or change some things up that you enjoy. And even things such as food storage. So obviously, we want to store food safely. But if you're trying to make a healthier habit and switch out some of your not so healthy snacks to better snacks, buy yourself some bright, fun containers. Organize it in the front of your pantry so when you get to the shelf, you have something that it looks nice, it's more appeasing to you. Do things like that when you can. Air quality, so breathing, a lot of things that we can do in a home for that. We can make sure we're looking at our cleaning products. One of the best things that ever happened to me a couple years ago, I found out I was allergic to something, skin, it's contact dermatitis, but I had to redo everything in my home. All my cleaning products, all my makeup, all my laundry detergents, and it's amazing now. I clean my house and I don't sneeze or cough. I mean, it just makes a big difference. There's a lot of things that are in things we don't think about. Safety this time of year, especially with carbon monoxide detectors. Hopefully all you have those in your home, but those are important. And then watching candles, this can be hazardous. Using HEPA vacuum filters, all those things can help improve the air quality in your home. Bring things into your environment that inspire you. So hopefully you've already done this, but this is a great thing for your wellness. So artwork, if you like artwork or not, bring what you like in, but artwork that shows like scenery, like oceans or mountains, something that has like a foreground and an expansive background, has actually been shown when people look at that to stimulate creativity and open-mindedness. So it's just that trick of the brain that we're looking outward and thinking about other things. Music, plants, sounds of nature, smells you like, all those things you can use in your home. And then make sure we're caring for our environments. And the city has a lot of great things here that it does. The recycling program, they plant trees, lots of nice little shops you can go to for gifts and restaurants to enjoy. This little area here has been really nice. And just try to think about how you consume things in general and what you can do to save. So you guys are doing great here. We are going down to the last couple things. So question, how much of the average person's life per year is spent looking for lost items? Oh, you guys guessed, all right. 2.5 days. So just a couple more things of trivia. I thought this goes back into the clutter because, usually if things aren't cluttered and not organized, you lose things. So 60% of us have lost something over the last year. The most common items, cell phones, keys, wallets, sunglasses. 33% are never recovered. But here's the best part I learned. Estimated value of lost items in the US per year, $5 billion. That's exactly the face I have when I read that. So January, great time to start getting away from things that we didn't need from last year and cleaning up. So a couple more quick slides. So lastly, this is just my own little graphic because there are things called the Wheel of Life with the different dimensions of wellness. But basically, if you're thinking about your life after looking at the presentation today and all the different pieces of the pie for these dimensions of wellness, and in the center of the pie would be you have absolutely no skills in this area. And at the edge of the pie, you have 10 out of 10, you're doing perfect, say, in your emotional wellness. You would just connect like a dot all the way around and see about what shape you end up with. And the idea is just to get a shape similar to a wheel. So again, you don't have to be perfectly balanced, but just something to kind of think about. I like to do a few visuals. It kind of helps me to think about things. So if you have a really desire to do that, you can Google Wheel of Life, and you can find some online. So to keep yourself with that wheel rolling forward and improve your dimensions of wellness, there's lots of things you can do right here in Springboro. So you guys have those on your paper. I think everybody got a handout. And I know Maureen plugged some of those at the beginning. So just make sure you check those out. Lots of things coming up. And the city website has great information. So the big points to take away today are wellness is active, individual, and integrated, so multiple dimensions. Working on one dimension will positively impact the others, so you shouldn't leave here overwhelmed thinking of all the things you should be doing. You should leave here thinking, what might I already be doing well? What might be one or two things I may want to start thinking about? And small, consistent changes lead to resilience. So over time, just like putting a few pennies in the bank, building habits over time, things that you've done over the years will add up to a lot of positive things. So thank you for allowing me here today. Like I said, I'm super excited to talk to you guys and get to meet some of you. And I did want to let Marina already plug this as well, but she's still looking for topics of interest. And that's one thing as Premier, we go out and serve the community in all different places. And we're always excited to hear what people are thinking about and interested in and create new presentations and information for people. So make sure you let her know. That's her contact. And if anybody, I think my references are in there, but if anybody did want some more references or things to look at, those are listed as well. What questions might you all have based on the presentations today, or feedback, comments?
You mentioned earlier about getting help. It made me think about, we used to have a pastor. He used to stress the idea of, probably at Christmas time, I don't even remember anymore, but the idea of giving. We all enjoy giving, and we have trouble taking. But you have to put yourself in the other person's place, because it's not going to feel good to them if you have trouble taking, because they want to give. So you have to work on that. And I always thought that was a fascinating one. So I try to accept things, even though sometimes you go, I don't know if I should be taking this. But you got to learn to take it.
I know, you do. And think about how the other person feels when you receive. There's nothing better than to give a gift to someone and have them to receive it gracefully. Yeah. Anything else? Well, thank you guys so much. You're such an attentive audience. It was so cold, so I appreciate you coming out. Have a great day.